The story begins deep in the heart of the American Southwest, in a remote canyon where the rugged landscape is painted in shades of ochre, sienna, and deep russet by the late afternoon sun. The wind sweeps across the desert, carrying the scent of dry sagebrush, parched soil, and distant rain from the highlands. It whistles through narrow crevices and jagged cliffs, creating a haunting symphony that amplifies the vast loneliness of the terrain. A solitary cowboy rides along a narrow, winding trail etched into the side of the canyon, his horse moving cautiously over loose stones and uneven terrain. The man is the embodiment of frontier resilience, broad-shouldered, strong, and silent by nature, with weathered hands hardened by rope, leather, and years of labor. His face, deeply tanned and lined with the hardships of countless days under the unforgiving sun, carries a quiet intensity. His eyes, however, are sharp and alert, constantly scanning the rugged landscape for signs of danger, opportunity, or life. As he rides, the silence of the desert is shattered by a sharp, desperate cry echoing from deep within the canyon. The first sound is almost lost in the howl of the wind, but the cowboy halts instantly, ears straining to detect its source. Another cry follows, more urgent and terrified, this time unmistakably human. It is the sound of children in distress. He feels a surge of instinctual concern. Danger is near and action is required. Spurring his horse, he maneuvers carefully along narrow ledges, past towering cliffs, clusters of resilient cacti, and jagged rock formations. The trail is treacherous, requiring precise footing for both horse and rider, yet his experience and intuition guide them steadily forward. Following the echoes deeper into a narrow canyon gorge, the cowboy comes to a stop at a sight that arrests him completely. Two young Apache girls, one perhaps 12 and the other around 14, are stranded atop a jagged, slick rock surrounded by rushing floodwaters. The torrent has been caused by sudden upstream rains that have swollen the normally gentle creek into a deadly, churning river. Their horses, valuable companions and essential for survival in these lands, have already been swept away. The water roars violently as it collides with rocks, sending white foam and debris tumbling downstream. The girls cling desperately to the rock, their small hands grasping jagged edges, their bodies shaking with fear and cold. Their clothes are soaked and cling to their slender frames while mud streaks mar their faces. Their eyes are wide, filled with terror, yet also glowing with the innate courage of youth confronted by danger. They whisper to each other in hurried, trembling words in Apache, trying to remain calm in a situation beyond their control. The cowboy dismounts with practiced ease, tying his horse to a mesquite tree firmly rooted at the canyon's edge. He takes a deep breath and pulls a coil of rope from his saddlebag, uncoiling it methodically, each movement deliberate and calm. His mind works swiftly, calculating the safest approach, the angle of the rock, the depth and speed of the water, and the best way to secure the girls without risking any of their lives. He speaks softly, a combination of simple English words and gestures he has learned to communicate with native children over the years. He murmurs phrases of reassurance, telling them without overwhelming them that he means no harm and will guide them to safety. The younger girl hesitates, fear paralyzing her small frame. The older one is braver, but her eyes betray her anxiety. The cowboy crouches, letting the rope hang down, showing them that they can hold on to it as he helps them climb down. Step by cautious step, he begins the treacherous descent. Each foot placement is carefully measured. One slip could be catastrophic. His hands are steady and his voice is calm yet firm, guiding them through every movement. He anchors the rope to a boulder above the flood, testing its stability before extending it toward the younger girl. She trembles, eyes fixed on the churning water below. With a few gentle words and patient encouragement, he reaches for her hands, lifting her inch by inch until her feet touch solid ground. The relief in her expression is instantaneous, tears mixing with streaks of dirt and water. She clings to her sister, then to the cowboy, her small body shaking with a mixture of fear and gratitude. The older girl watches, torn between caution and trust. The cowboy kneels low to her level, showing patience and giving her time to assess the situation herself. He gestures with open hands, guiding her to hold the rope, step carefully, and follow slowly. Inch by inch, she makes the descent, each movement filled with tension and the potential for disaster. Her heart pounds in her chest, and for a moment the canyon seems endless, filled with nothing but the roar of the flood and the fear of falling. Finally, she reaches solid ground, tears welling in her eyes, but now mingled with relief, and a budding sense of trust toward this lone cowboy who risked his own safety to save them. Once both girls are safe, he wraps a blanket around them, noticing the way their small bodies shiver in the chill that descends with the setting sun. They sip water cautiously, still unsure, but slowly beginning to relax in the presence of their rescuer. The golden light of sunset washes over the canyon, casting long shadows and bathing the desert in warm, ethereal hues. The beauty of the moment contrasts sharply with the chaos of the flood, symbolizing hope after peril. The cowboy guides the girls to a small sheltered area near his modest camp, a place he has built after years of living in isolation. The camp is humble, a small fire pit surrounded by stones, a few blankets, and a horse tied to a nearby tree. He lights a fire, the flames crackling and casting dancing shadows across the canyon walls. The smell of burning wood fills the air, mingling with the earthy scent of the canyon. The girls, though exhausted, begin to settle near the warmth, watching the firelight reflect off the rocky walls, their fear slowly giving way to curiosity and awe. As night falls, the desert transforms. The temperature drops sharply and a blanket of stars emerges, stretching infinitely overhead. The constellations sparkle like diamonds, offering a sense of peace and continuity in contrast to the day's dangers. The wind carries the distant howl of coyotes, and the subtle rustling of sagebrush adds an eerie, yet comforting soundtrack to the quiet of the night. The cowboy sits near the fire, vigilant yet unobtrusive, allowing the girls to rest and regain their strength. He understands the weight of what has transpired, the flood, the terror, and the narrow escape, and he reflects on the responsibility that now rests on his shoulders. These two lives, young and vulnerable, are momentarily entrusted to him, and he feels the gravity of that trust deeply. The girls, meanwhile, are processing the events in their own way. They whisper to each other in soft, cautious tones, their hands occasionally brushing against the blanket and the cowboy's coat as they adjust. A bond begins to form, fragile but undeniable, between them and the man who saved them. Though words are few and their languages only partially overlap, the shared experience of fear, courage, and survival creates a profound connection. They begin to sense that this stranger, though solitary and rugged, is someone who can be trusted, a protector who respects their resilience and individuality. The night stretches on, filled with quiet reflection and subtle gestures of care. The cowboy tends the fire, occasionally glancing toward the stars, thinking of his own past, the long days spent alone in the wilderness, and the rare moments when life unexpectedly intersects with duty and compassion. The girls huddle together, finding warmth and comfort in both the fire and the quiet presence of their rescuer. The canyon, which had earlier been a place of terror, now feels almost sacred, illuminated by the soft glow of the fire and the vast, star-studded sky. This opening scene accomplishes several critical objectives. It establishes the cowboy as a heroic and empathetic figure, highlighting his courage, skill, and respect for the girls' autonomy. It portrays the girls as vulnerable yet brave, capable of resilience in the face of extreme danger, and it vividly situates the story in a dramatic, cinematic desert environment that mirrors both danger and beauty. The events of the day, culminating in the girls' rescue, lay the foundation for deeper narrative developments: the arrival of their mother, the strange reward she brings, and the unfolding relationships and cultural interactions that will define the story. The tension, sensory richness, and emotional depth of this opening sequence ensure that the audience is fully immersed in the world and invested in the fate of these characters. In conclusion, the encounter is not just an act of physical heroism, but a nuanced interplay of bravery, empathy, and cross-cultural connection. The cowboy's careful attention to the girls' needs, combined with his skillful navigation of the treacherous canyon, establishes him as a multidimensional hero. The girls' courage and gradual trust create a compelling emotional arc, setting the stage for the story's next chapter. The desert itself, harsh, beautiful, and alive with sound, scent, and movement, becomes a character in its own right, shaping events and amplifying the drama of this life-and-death rescue. This opening sequence, with its cinematic scope, emotional resonance, and detailed world-building, forms the essential first outline for the story, fulfilling the dual role of action and thematic setup. After the perilous day, as the floodwaters recede and the desert settles into evening, the cowboy leads the two Apache girls toward a sheltered area near his modest camp. The canyon walls stretch tall on either side, forming a natural amphitheater that traps the soft light of the dying sun, which bathes the landscape in warm amber and rose tones. The desert is no longer just a place of danger. In the fading light, it becomes a quiet haven, a temporary refuge for the weary travelers. The cowboy walks slowly, ensuring that each step of the girls is secure, watching how their small hands tremble with exhaustion and cold. Every movement is deliberate, patient, and careful, as he knows the events of the day have left them both physically drained and emotionally raw. The camp itself is humble but functional. A simple fire pit made of stacked stone sits in the center, with remnants of dried wood stacked neatly nearby. A horse is tied securely to a sturdy mesquite tree at the edge of the clearing. Blankets are spread across smooth patches of rock, providing a place to sit, rest, and recover. The air is cool now, carrying the faint scent of smoke and earth, a subtle contrast to the heat and chaos of the day. The cowboy kneels beside the fire, striking flint and steel to spark flames that quickly rise, crackling and dancing, casting flickering shadows across the canyon walls. The girls watch silently, their wide eyes reflecting the firelight, and for the first time since their ordeal, there is a sense of safety and calm. The younger girl, still shivering, curls beneath a blanket the cowboy drapes over her shoulders. She hugs herself tightly, leaning against her older sister for warmth. Her eyes, wide and glimmering with unshed tears, occasionally glance at the cowboy with a mixture of awe and cautious trust. The older girl, though more composed, cannot hide her curiosity. She studies the cowboy closely, the way his hands move with practiced precision as he tends the fire, the gentleness in his voice when he offers simple reassurances, the patience that defines his every action. She senses that this is a man who is not just brave but compassionate, a rare combination in a world that often favors harshness and survival over empathy. Night deepens, and the desert grows colder. The wind rustles the sparse vegetation, carrying the distant calls of coyotes and the low murmur of the creek where the floodwaters once raged. The cowboy sits cross-legged near the fire, maintaining a quiet watch over the girls while allowing them space to process the events. He speaks softly, sharing small bits of information about the land, the stars, and the creatures that roam the desert at night. His words are simple but rich in imagery, painting pictures of mountains, rivers, and forests he has traveled through. Though the girls understand little, they listen attentively, drawn in by the warmth and cadence of his voice, and by the sense of stability he embodies in contrast to the chaos of the day. As the night wears on, the cowboy begins to observe the girls more closely, noting the subtle expressions and gestures that reveal their personalities. The younger girl is cautious, protective of her sister, and hesitant to speak to the stranger who saved them. Yet there is intelligence in her eyes and a resilience in her posture that hints at strength beyond her years. The older girl is bolder, inquisitive, and quietly assessing the cowboy's intentions. She observes how he handles danger, how he respects boundaries, and how he communicates without forcing trust, an approach that contrasts sharply with the authoritative figures she may have encountered before. Their mother's teachings, though unspoken in this moment, have instilled in them both a sense of vigilance, resilience, and caution when dealing with strangers. Around the fire, silence dominates, punctuated only by the crackle of flames, the shifting of blankets, and the occasional murmur between the sisters. Words are scarce, but communication occurs through glances, gestures, and shared understanding. The cowboy does not force conversation. Instead, he allows silence to carry meaning. In this quiet, the girl's fear gradually begins to recede, replaced by curiosity and an emerging sense of trust. He offers small gestures of care, a sip of water, the placement of a blanket over a shoulder, the gentle positioning of a sleeping pad for comfort. Each action reinforces his reliability and benevolence. The desert night is alive with subtle details that deepen the atmosphere and heighten the sense of intimacy. The stars blanket the sky in a vast, glittering expanse, reminding all three of the enormity of the world and their small place within it. The canyon walls, illuminated by firelight and moonlight, become silent sentinels, enclosing the camp in a protective embrace. Distant mountains are mere silhouettes against the night sky, and the soft gurgle of the creek hints at the danger that has passed but remains in memory. These environmental elements mirror the emotional journey of the characters. The firelight symbolizes safety and connection. The vast night sky evokes both wonder and vulnerability, and the natural sounds of the desert provide a soothing soundtrack to the process of healing and trust building. The cowboy's thoughts wander intermittently to his own past. He recalls times of solitude, moments when survival depended on skill, patience, and attention to detail. He reflects on encounters with other travelers, some kind and some cruel, and the lessons learned from each. Tonight, however, is different. These girls are not simply travelers. They are lives entrusted to him. He feels a deep sense of responsibility, tempered by the instinctive understanding that fear and trust must coexist carefully. He resists the urge to overwhelm them with words, instead choosing patience, observation, and subtle action. This restraint, though quiet, communicates volumes about his character. It is courage tempered with empathy. Meanwhile, the girls slowly begin to relax. The younger one nestles closer to her sister, letting her guard down incrementally, while the older girl edges toward the fire, intrigued by the way it flickers and dances. Tiny gestures, a smile, a glance, a soft exhalation, signal the gradual erosion of fear and the emergence of trust. The cowboy notices these subtle shifts and responds with equally subtle gestures, offering warmth without intrusion, allowing autonomy while providing protection. In this mutual, silent understanding, a bond is forged that words alone could never fully capture. The night stretches on, deepening both the physical and emotional dimensions of the scene. The temperature drops further and the desert air becomes crisp and invigorating. The fire's warmth contrasts with the cool air, creating a cocoon of comfort that shields the trio from the harsh elements. Stars above glimmer like diamonds scattered across black velvet, and the Milky Way arcs overhead, its presence both humbling and awe-inspiring. The girls enveloped in blankets gaze upward intermittently, their wonder punctuating moments of silent contemplation. The cowboy glances at them, recognizing that even in the midst of danger and uncertainty, moments of beauty and reflection can exist, offering solace and hope. As the first hints of dawn approach, the cowboy tends the fire one last time, ensuring it is safely contained and that the girls are secure and comfortable. He watches over them silently, reflecting on the extraordinary events of the day, the flood, the peril, the delicate rescue, and the fragile emergence of trust. He senses that tomorrow will bring new challenges, particularly with the arrival of their mother, who will bring not only gratitude but also a mysterious reward that none of them can yet imagine. This night, however, is a moment suspended in time, a pause between chaos and consequence, danger and safety, fear and trust. The night at the cowboys' camp is not merely a respite. It is a crucible in which relationships are forged. It is here that trust begins to take root, shaped not by words but by action, patience, and empathy. The girls learn that courage is not simply the absence of fear, but the ability to navigate it with guidance and support. The cowboy learns that heroism is not just about bravery in the face of danger, but about nurturing and protecting the vulnerable in ways both practical and compassionate. By the time sleep begins to claim them, the camp is enveloped in quiet serenity. The canyon walls absorb the last whispers of wind. The stars fade slightly as the first hints of morning light approach, and the creek murmurs softly in the distance. The girls, exhausted but comforted, drift into sleep beneath the watchful eyes of the cowboy. In their dreams, the terror of the day is replaced by images of safety, warmth, and human connection. The cowboy remains awake a little longer, thinking about the strange twists of fate that brought them together, and the unknown events that tomorrow may hold. This outline establishes not just a physical setting, but an emotional landscape. It emphasizes the growth of trust and the beginnings of familial-like bonds between the cowboy and the girls. It explores the interplay of fear, courage, empathy, and patience, all within the vivid cinematic backdrop of the desert night. The quiet, slow-building tension of survival and emotional connection ensures that the reader is fully invested in the character's journey and prepared for the dramatic events of the following day. The first light of dawn spreads across the desert canyon, softening the jagged edges of rock and casting long shadows that stretch over the cowboys' small camp. The air is crisp, carrying a faint scent of sage and damp earth from the previous day's flood. The girls stir under their blankets, blinking sleep from their eyes, their small movements cautious as they adjust to the new day. The cowboy, already awake, tends the dwindling embers of the fire, ensuring it can be rekindled easily if needed. There is a quiet serenity to the morning, a contrast to the terror of the flood and the tense rescue that still lingers in their memories. As the girls stretch and gather themselves, The distant sound of hooves echoes faintly against the canyon walls. It is rhythmic, steady, and unmistakable. Someone is approaching on horseback. The girls glance at each other, a mix of excitement and anxiety reflected in their eyes. The older girl rises cautiously, brushing dust from her soaked clothes, while the younger one clings instinctively to her sister. Neither knows exactly who is coming, but instinct tells them it is someone familiar. The cowboy rises from his place by the fire, squinting toward the sound, his hand resting lightly on the reins of his horse. His experience on the frontier teaches him to assess every situation carefully. Soon, a woman appears on the ridge above the canyon, riding a sturdy chestnut horse. She is tall and commanding, yet there is warmth in her presence. Her dark hair is tied back, and her clothing is practical, but shows signs of care and dignity. Her eyes, sharp and assessing, scan the scene below. When she sees her daughters safe and unharmed, a wave of relief washes over her. She spurs her horse forward, descending the slope with controlled urgency. The girls, recognizing their mother, run toward her with a mixture of joy, tears, and lingering apprehension. The reunion is tender, filled with the soft murmurings of language, the pressing of small hands against a parent's chest, and the quiet sobs of relief that only those who have faced death can fully express. The cowboy watches from a short distance, understanding the private nature of this reunion. He remains silent, giving the mother and her daughter space to reconnect. Yet his eyes do not leave them entirely. There's a sense of satisfaction in knowing he has played a crucial role in reuniting this family, but also anticipation for the interaction that is soon to follow. The mother, noticing the cowboy, spurs her horse closer, her gaze steady, assessing the man who has safeguarded her children. There is curiosity, gratitude, and a hint of awe in her expression. The mother dismounts with the grace of someone accustomed to horsemanship and command of the land. She approaches the cowboy slowly, her steps measured, her eyes never leaving his. She speaks in Apache, her voice firm yet warm, words that he partially understands, though her tone conveys all that language cannot fully express. She thanks him repeatedly, her hands extended in gestures of appreciation. The cowboy bows his head slightly, responding in English and simple gestures, acknowledging her gratitude without expectation of reward. There is a silent understanding between them. He has acted out of compassion and duty, not desire for recognition or compensation. After a moment, the mother leads her daughters slightly aside, speaking to them quietly. The girls respond, their voices tinged with excitement and pride. They glance at the cowboy, then back to their mother, as if to include him silently in their gratitude. Then, to the cowboy's surprise, the mother produces a small, intricately decorated object from a pouch at her side. It is a token of cultural significance, a handcrafted pendant with beads and feathers, its colors vibrant against the muted tones of the desert morning. She holds it out to him, her eyes steady and solemn, communicating the gravity and meaning of the gift. The cowboy studies the pendant carefully, recognizing the craftsmanship and the cultural importance. He understands that this is not merely a token of thanks. It is a sacred offering, a bridge between worlds. Accepting it, he feels a deep sense of connection to the girls and their family, as well as a responsibility to honor the gift and the trust it represents. The pendant symbolizes more than gratitude. It embodies respect, acknowledgement, and the unspoken promise of continued protection and understanding. The mother then gestures toward the girls, her expression conveying a message beyond words. Because you saved their lives, you are now part of our story. The girls beam, and the cowboy feels an unexpected warmth in his chest, realizing that he has been welcomed into a family not by blood, but by courage, empathy, and shared experience. There is a sense of awe as the desert around them, the harsh cliffs, the golden sands, and the whispering wind seems to pause, allowing this moment of human connection to shine uninterrupted. As the morning unfolds, the cowboy, the girls, and their mother share a modest meal around the fire. The mother prepares simple food, demonstrating care not only for her children but for their rescuer. They eat in companionable silence at first, the crackle of the fire punctuating the air. Then gradually conversation grows, halting at times due to language differences but rich with gesture, laughter, and the shared human understanding of relief and survival. The desert, which had been a place of danger and isolation, now becomes a backdrop for reconciliation, trust, and the blossoming of mutual respect. The mother's stories begin to emerge, tales of their tribe, lessons in courage and the resilience needed to survive in a harsh world. She speaks of family traditions, of survival skills passed down through generations, and of the strength inherent in the Apache people. The girls listen intently, absorbing the stories and the pride in their mother's voice. The cowboy, though he cannot fully understand every word, listens with rapt attention, recognizing the wisdom, depth, and cultural significance behind each narrative. The bond between them deepens, strengthened by shared experiences and the acknowledgement of each person's role in the events that have unfolded. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the mother takes the pendant from the cowboy's hands, instructing him to keep it close as a reminder of their encounter. She explains through gestures and broken English that it is a symbol of trust, respect, and eternal gratitude. The cowboy nods, feeling the weight of this responsibility, understanding that this small object now carries a significance far beyond its physical beauty. It is a promise, a bridge between lives and cultures, and a tangible representation of courage rewarded in the most meaningful way. Before departing, the mother embraces her daughters once more, whispering words of caution, love, and instruction. The girls, holding tightly to her hands in the memory of the cowboy's bravery, are visibly transformed by the night's events. Fear has been replaced by gratitude, awe, and the beginnings of a sense of security that only comes from surviving a shared ordeal. The cowboy, standing slightly apart, observes the scene, recognizing that his role as protector has ended for now, but that a connection has been forged which will influence all their lives going forward. The family mounts their horses, preparing to leave the canyon. The mother turns once more to the cowboy, nodding solemnly, her eyes reflecting pride, gratitude, and a quiet challenge to live up to the trust and respect that has been conferred upon him. The girls wave shyly, their faces lit with smiles that reflect relief, admiration, and the joy of reunion. The cowboy watches them ride off, the sound of hooves fading into the distance, leaving the canyon silent once more. But the impact of this encounter lingers, etched in memory and in the pendant he carries, a symbol of lives saved, bonds formed, and courage acknowledged. The desert, which had seemed vast, lonely, and unforgiving the day before, now feels alive with possibility. The canyon walls, once ominous and threatening, stand as silent witnesses to the bravery and compassion displayed within their confines. The wind carries a softer tune now, rustling through the sparse brush, almost as if nature itself is honoring the events that have transpired. For the cowboy, the girls, and their mother, the morning marks not just a reunion but a turning point, a convergence of fate, courage, and the unexpected rewards of compassion. This outline establishes the arrival of the mother as both a narrative and emotional climax of the story's early arc. It emphasizes the cultural significance of gratitude, the forging of trust across boundaries, and the symbolic reward of the pendant. It deepens the characterization of all three figures, the cowboy as heroic and empathetic, the girls as resilient and evolving, and the mother as authoritative, wise, and culturally rooted. The cinematic and sensory details of the desert, the fire, the horses, and the morning light enrich the story, creating a vivid backdrop for human connection, trust, and honor. The mysterious reward, the pendant, serves as a tangible representation of gratitude, bridging worlds and setting the stage for future narrative developments. After the reunion and the mysterious gift from their mother, the desert stretches endlessly under a blazing midday sun. The canyon, which only the day before had been a stage of terror and desperation, now holds a quiet sense of promise. The girls, newly reunited with their mother, are filled with gratitude for the cowboy who saved them, but they also carry a quiet curiosity. They are no longer simply survivors. They are observers, learning to trust and understand a man who has become, in an unexpected way, a protector and teacher. The cowboy, aware of their cautious but growing trust, decides to extend the morning beyond a simple farewell. He recognizes that the girls' experience of survival has already taught them more than many adults learn in a lifetime. Yet he also knows that guidance and practical knowledge can solidify their safety and confidence in the harsh desert environment. They gather near the camp where the fire still smolders and the morning light glints off the canyon walls. The air is dry and warm, carrying a faint scent of sage and sun-baked earth. Their mother encourages them to stay close, but allows the cowboy to interact with them, signaling trust and tacit permission for this shared learning experience. The cowboy begins with practical lessons. He shows them how to identify safe water sources, how to read the signs of the desert, the tracks of animals, the behavior of the wind, and the subtle cues of approaching storms. He demonstrates how to navigate rocky terrain without injury, using both observation and balance. The girls watch attentively, mimicking his movements and asking questions through gestures and broken words. Even in these simple lessons, a bond forms built on trust, attention, and shared experience. The cowboy is patient, correcting gently, encouraging carefully, and ensuring the girls gain both confidence and understanding. Beyond practical survival, the cowboy introduces lessons of patience and awareness, crucial skills for navigating both the desert and life. He tells them, through a combination of gestures and simple phrases, the importance of observation, how listening to the wind, noting the behavior of animals, and sensing changes in the terrain can mean the difference between danger and safety. The girls are fascinated, their wide eyes absorbing the world around them in a new way, seeing not just obstacles but signs, patterns, and rhythms. They begin to understand that courage is not merely physical but mental, a discipline of attention, resilience, and calm under pressure. The cowboy also teaches them lessons about empathy and respect, not through lectures but through example. When a desert lizard scurries near the camp, he shows how to observe it without harming it. When a flock of birds passes overhead, he points out their flight patterns, explaining silently how understanding nature aids survival. Through these small acts, the girls learn that strength is inseparable from respect, courage paired with thoughtfulness, survival paired with compassion. Each lesson reinforces their emerging trust in him, deepening the bond beyond the immediate context of danger and into the realm of guidance, mentorship, and mutual respect. Throughout the day, the girls also begin to share their own skills and knowledge. They demonstrate an understanding of the land learned from their mother, edible plants, simple medicinal herbs, and strategies for conserving water. The cowboy watches with admiration, realizing that their resilience and intelligence have been cultivated by a combination of instinct, maternal teaching, and lived experience. This exchange of knowledge becomes a mutual respect, a quiet dialogue between cultures, experiences, and generations. The lessons are not just instructional, they are bridges, connecting different ways of knowing and surviving in the world. The midday sun rises higher, and the canyon heats, yet the girls continue to follow the cowboy's guidance. They explore small areas nearby under his supervision, practicing climbing, observing tracks, and identifying landmarks. The cowboy constantly reinforces the importance of awareness and deliberate action, teaching them to pause, assess, and respond thoughtfully. Each successful attempt is celebrated with nods, smiles, and quiet encouragement. The girls' confidence grows visibly, and with it, their trust in the cowboy deepens. They are no longer simply relying on him. They are learning from him, preparing themselves to navigate challenges in the future with knowledge and courage. As afternoon approaches, the mother watches from a respectful distance, her presence a comforting anchor while allowing her daughters to explore this emerging bond. She sees the trust forming, the quiet respect building, and she recognizes that this cowboy has become more than a rescuer. He is now a mentor figure. She nods subtly, conveying approval without words. The girls, sensing her acknowledgement, feel a sense of pride and accomplishment, reinforcing their connection to both their mother and their protector. The cowboy also begins to share personal stories, illustrating lessons through narrative rather than instruction. He recounts times he navigated storms, survived unexpected encounters with wildlife, and faced moral choices on the frontier. Each story is carefully chosen to convey resilience, resourcefulness, and integrity, and each is punctuated with gestures and expressions that make the lessons tangible. The girls listen intently, absorbing not just the knowledge but the subtle moral guidance embedded in the tales. They begin to understand the cowboy as a person, not merely a figure of authority, a human whose experiences mirror their own struggle, courage, and hope. During a quiet break, the cowboy and the girls sit near a small pool of water formed by the receding flood. He points to reflections in the water, demonstrating how to observe movement, anticipate change, and notice details that might otherwise go unseen. The girls, fascinated, mimic his actions, crouching carefully and focusing their attention on the surface. This exercise becomes both playful and instructive, a metaphor for awareness, observation, and the importance of seeing beyond the obvious. Through this shared activity, the bond strengthens further, grounded in patience, focus, and subtle guidance rather than force or authority. As the day progresses, the desert continues to reveal both danger and beauty. Hawks circle overhead, rocks shift underfoot, and the wind carries occasional dust devils through the canyon. Each element provides an opportunity for instruction and growth. The cowboy guides the girls in understanding signs of weather changes, the movements of wildlife, and the rhythm of the land itself. The girls respond with excitement and curiosity, asking questions through gestures and occasional words, demonstrating their growing engagement and trust. By late afternoon, the trio returns to the camp, tired but fulfilled. The girls' movements are more confident, their expressions bright with accomplishment. The cowboy tends the fire once more, preparing a small meal while the girls assist under his supervision. There is laughter now, soft, cautious, and genuine, filling the space between lessons and shared activity. The desert, which had been a backdrop of fear and danger, now feels alive with connection, learning, and discovery. As twilight descends, the canyon walls are bathed in warm golds and purples, and the wind softens, carrying the scent of cooling sand and sage. The girls sit near the fire, blankets around their shoulders, reflecting on the day's lessons. The cowboy observes silently, satisfied with their progress and the trust that has been forged. There is a mutual understanding now that goes beyond words. The cowboy has earned their respect, the girls have earned his admiration, and all three have become linked by shared experience, growth, and the unspoken bonds of survival and empathy. This outline emphasizes the evolution of trust, respect, and connection between the cowboy and the girls. The narrative demonstrates that heroism extends beyond physical bravery into the realm of teaching, patience, and emotional guidance. It deepens the characters, explores cross-cultural exchange, and positions the desert as both a challenge and a classroom, rich with lessons about survival, empathy, and resilience. By the end of the day, the bond is firmly established, setting the stage for the final narrative developments, acknowledgement of heroism, closure, and the long-lasting impact of their shared experiences. The next morning dawns with a delicate glow, sunlight spilling over the canyon in soft shades of gold and rose. The desert air is crisp, carrying the faint scent of sage, dry earth, and the lingering traces of last night's fire. The cowboy rises early, stretching his weary muscles and tending the embers which still glow faintly among the stones of the fire pit. The girls are already awake, quietly observing him from beneath their blankets, a mixture of anticipation and reverence in their eyes. The night's lessons, the bonds formed, and the shared trust linger in the morning air like an invisible thread connecting the three of them. Their mother, observing from a short distance, signals that it is time to prepare for departure. She approaches the cowboy, her posture formal yet warm, reflecting both gratitude and respect. She carries with her an air of quiet authority, tempered by the relief and joy of seeing her daughters safe. In her hand is a small leather pouch, carefully secured at her side, containing a token of cultural significance, a symbol of recognition for courage, loyalty, and compassion. It is not merely a gift, but a reward steeped in meaning, connecting generations, values, and traditions. The mother extends it to the cowboy with a solemn nod, her eyes locking with his in a moment heavy with unspoken acknowledgement. The pendant within the pouch is exquisitely crafted, beads of turquoise, shells, and delicate feathers woven into a pattern that tells a story of survival, honor, and interconnectedness. Its intricate design reflects the depth of their culture and the significance of the gesture. The mother explains through a combination of gestures, broken English, and the girls' translations, that the gift is not just for saving their lives, but for embodying the values their family holds dear. Bravery tempered with empathy, strength guided by respect, and action balanced by compassion. Accepting the gift, the cowboy feels its weight, not merely physical but symbolic. It is a tangible acknowledgement that his courage and kindness have rippled outward, affecting lives in profound ways. The girls, now fully awake and attentive, watch the exchange with wide, solemn eyes. Their expressions are a mixture of pride, gratitude, and admiration. They step forward, each offering a small token of thanks, a handmade bracelet, a braided string of beads, simple gifts imbued with heartfelt meaning. The cowboy accepts these humbly, recognizing that these gestures, though small, carry emotional weight far greater than any material object. The moment is a delicate balance of cultures, emotions, and unspoken understanding, bridging worlds that often seem disparate but are united through shared experience and human connection. As the preparations for departure unfold, the cowboy ensures that the girls are comfortable, that their mother's horse is secure, and that the camp is left in order. Every action reflects his thoughtfulness, attention to detail, and respect for both the people and the land. The canyon itself seems to hold its breath in recognition, the jagged cliffs and winding trails bearing silent witness to the drama and heroism that have unfolded within their walls. The wind carries a gentle hum through the rocks, a natural melody accompanying the farewell, as if the desert itself honors the bond formed between these lives. Before mounting her horse, the mother gestures once more to the cowboy, eyes steady, voice carrying the faint intonations of her native tongue. The message is clear. This is not merely a goodbye but a recognition of enduring connection. The cowboy nods solemnly, understanding that while their paths may now diverge, the impact of this encounter will remain embedded in their lives. The girls, holding tightly to the reins of their mother's horse, glance at him repeatedly, their expressions mirroring a mixture of sorrow and hope. The recognition that one chapter ends, and another shaped by lessons learned and bonds formed, begins. As the family begins their journey out of the canyon, the cowboy watches them ascend the trail, their figures framed by the early sunlight and the rugged beauty of the desert. The girls wave, their small hands fluttering like banners of gratitude, bravery, and newfound understanding. Their mother, a figure of dignity and strength, rides slightly ahead, casting occasional glances backward, her eyes reflecting a complex mixture of relief, respect, and acknowledgement. The pendant glimmers faintly in the sunlight as the cowboy holds it close, a constant reminder of the courage, empathy, and trust that have intertwined their fates. The cowboy remains at the camp for a moment longer, absorbing the quiet aftermath. The desert, once threatening and harsh, now feels like a living testament to survival, connection, and the human spirit. The canyon walls, which had echoed with cries of fear and desperation, are now bathed in warm light, their shadows soft and embracing. He reflects on the past hours, the flood, the rescue, the night of shared trust, and the gift from the mother. Each event has left an indelible mark on his consciousness, shaping his understanding of courage, empathy, and the profound impact of small acts of kindness. He considers the girls' transformation. They have moved from terror to trust, from vulnerability to cautious empowerment. Through the lessons he imparted, through observation and shared experience, they have learned to navigate fear, interpret the land, and understand the importance of patience, observation, and empathy. The cowboy recognizes that he too has been changed, by their resilience, by their gratitude, and by the subtle ways in which their courage has reminded him of his own humanity. This exchange, this crossing of lives and cultures, has created a ripple effect, one that extends beyond the immediate canyon to the broader tapestry of the desert world they inhabit. The cowboy mounts his horse and begins a slow ride through the canyon, following a winding path that eventually leads to his usual trail. Each step is contemplative, the rhythm of the horse's hooves matching the cadence of his thoughts. He reflects on the lessons learned from this encounter, not only about survival and courage but also about trust, connection, and the significance of actions performed without expectation of reward. The desert, silent and vast, seems to affirm these reflections, its winds and distant bird calls a quiet chorus of acknowledgement. The pendant rests against his chest, a constant reminder of the family he has aided, the lives he has touched, and the values he has demonstrated. It is a symbol not only of gratitude but of transformation, for the girls, for their mother, and for himself. He understands that heroism is not solely the act of saving lives in the moment of danger, but also in the patience, guidance, and empathy that extend beyond immediate crises. The cowboy has become a figure not only of courage, but of moral resonance, embodying the qualities that bridge disparate worlds and forge enduring bonds. As the sun rises higher, casting stark shadows and bright light across the desert, the canyon is left behind. Its cliffs, trails, and hidden pools remain, silent witnesses to the drama, danger, and deep human connection that unfolded within them. The girls and their mother disappear from view, riding toward home in the continuation of their lives, carrying with them the lessons, gratitude, and the memory of a man whose courage and kindness will echo in their hearts forever. The cowboy, riding slowly along the familiar trail, understands that though their paths have diverged, the encounter has left a permanent imprint, shaping the character, courage, and understanding of all involved. This final outline serves as both a conclusion and a reflection. It emphasizes the lasting impact of the cowboy's actions, the significance of the mother's reward, and the emotional and cultural resonance of trust and empathy. It highlights the transformative power of courage, compassion, and cross-cultural connection, leaving the story with a sense of closure, hope, and enduring human bonds. The cinematic descriptions of the desert, the canyon, the firelight, and the morning sun reinforce the story's visual and emotional richness, creating a satisfying and memorable conclusion.